welcome to Overlanders Then and Now. I'm your host, Jim King, here with my co host, when he's not a papal advisor, Tom Bingle. Hey, Binks.
Hello, Doc. Thank you for that nice but factually incorrect introduction. But you did set us up nicely for today's topic, Doc. Our second day in Rome back in 1977, St. Peter's and the Vatican, Jimmy.
Yeah, although we did visit the catacombs that day too. But since in my journal I only wrote that the skulls and bones of the persecuted Christians looked fake, I guess we'll stick with our reflections on the Vatican.
Yeah, Jimmy. Yes, my journal entry wasn't any more detailed than yours, Doc,
Yeah.
except that I did note we were on the Appian Way,
Mm-hmm.
the ancient road built back in about 312 BC that ran 350 miles from Rome to the city we had recently visited, Brindisi, Doc.
Oh, I had completely forgotten that little fun fact. Actually, I'm not sure I ever knew that fact, but
Yeah.
Brindisi is another name that keeps popping up in unexpected places, and it always reminds me of your near bleeding out episode on Thanksgiving night.
Oh, oh dear, that was something, Jimmy. Now, folks watching, if you've missed that episode, you'll find it in on our blog. Now, go to the tab that reads the post in order of appearance and click on a Brindisi Thanksgiving and have a laugh at my expense.
Oh no! It's only funny in retrospect, Binks. At that time it was pretty scary, despite all your
Yes, yes,
laughing as you were bleeding out. But okay, well,
yes,
on to a more serious subject: St. Peter's in the Vatican. Now,
yes.
in the blog, we wrote that your first
Yeah.
impression of St. Peter's was a single word: mammoth.
Oh God,
Right?
yes, Jimmy. We had a little bit of trouble finding it, I remember, but once it came into view on the from the Via Castiglione, huge. I just couldn't believe that we were there, Jim, looking at the building so familiar to us as lifelong Catholics.
Yeah, it
Just
was truly spectacular. It was a cloudy, overcast day, kind of gray, but the building just seemed to gleam. As
mm,
you said, it
mm,
was hard to believe we were
mm.
in Rome and about to enter St. Peter's Basilica. And when we
Yeah.
did enter, well, we had similar and very different reactions. So, what were yours when
Uh,
we walked inside?
well, Jimmy, first one we were lucky because there were no crowds. It was
Yeah.
December, so definitely off season, but I'm surprised that we were able to walk right in, Jim. No crowds at all. And when we walked in, oof, I was blown away, Jim. Just blown away.
Yeah. By what specifically? The sheer size of it or
Oh, the
what?
sheer size, Jimmy, the sheer size, definitely. It
Mhm.
was and is so large in scale, like nothing, Jimmy, like nothing ever seen before or since,
Yeah,
Doc.
I know what you mean. I didn't know which way to look when we got in there.
Exactly, Jimmy. I mean, it was one amazing thing after another. The side altars, all the tombs of the popes. It seemed like each one trying to outdo the other. And that glorious ceiling, Jim, seemed to
Yeah,
remind me of the vastness of the universe. It was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
it really was. What and I seem to recall, I don't know, wasn't there a plaque or something that showed its size relative to, other basilicas and cathedrals? I
Yeah.
think I remember that Notre Dame Cathedral in Notre Dame in Paris is less than half the size of St. Peter's. The
Yeah.
nave, the central aisle, is longer than two football fields, kind of appropriate for Notre Dame.
Incredible.
And the width
Yeah.
and the height is, I don't know how else to describe it. It's
Yeah.
overwhelming. The place is just monumental.
Jimmy, of course. And the highlights on the ground floor is the main altar, the papal altar,
Right.
or the high altar.
Mhm.
Buried beneath lies St. Peter, and soaring overhead is Bernini's Baldacchino. This is a dark bronze canopy, 90 feet high, and it feels like a giant tent, made of metal, towering over everything.
Yeah. It's
Just
unusual.
wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the dome, along with
Mm,
Pieta, which we'll get to in a minute, was the highlight. The dome is
yeah,
448
yeah.
feet above the floor. It was truly dizzying. I
Yes.
was awestruck.
Jimmy, everything about the place seemed to inspire awe.
Hmm.
But I have to say, I thought the back altar was, behind, was a bit too much. I remember it seemed too rococo,
Ooh.
too baroque with these large golden spears emanating from a center seemed just a little garish, a little too much ornamentation, or flashy, at least for me, Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, then I think you need to speak to the Fabbrica di San
Uh,
Pietro. Oh, that was bad. Yeah, the body
uh,
that
uh,
maintains and preserves the basilica. I know they'll want to
well,
hear
Jimmy,
from.
good idea. I have my people call their people, Jimmy. But here we go. Let's move on. I should say up, Jim, because then this was neat. We climbed to the cupola, 551 stairs, Doc.
Yeah. Oh my God. I thought we'd never get there, but the climb was definitely worth it.
Oh, Jimmy, definitely. All of Rome was at our feet.
And a
Looking
bird's eye
out.
view of Bernini's colonnade. It was very cool. Very
Oh,
cool.
Jimmy, I replayed in my mind, Jesus being tempted by the devil. All of this would be yours if you fall down and worship me. It was
Yeah, I don't think you
unbelievable, the
restricted
view.
that. Just yeah, you didn't restrict your that scene to your mind. I think you actually reenacted it. Spreading your arms wide and drawing the stares from others who were up there with us.
Jimmy, it was exhilarating, Doc.
Yeah.
I can't. And then we went back downstairs to the Vatican Museum behind the
Right.
scenes, and then last but certainly not least, the Sistine Chapel.
Hmm.
Oh, Jimmy, and the incredible ceiling by Michelangelo, depicting scenes from Genesis, from the creation of Adam, Jimmy, to the expulsion from the garden, to the Great Flood. Amazing, just amazing. Was that a highlight for you, Doc?
No, definitely.
The
Well,
Sistine?
yeah, absolutely. Of course, we'd seen in books and movies various
Yeah.
parts of the scene, of the ceiling, especially the creation of Adam. But to see the whole ceiling was, almost jarring. And then to think that we were in the very room where the popes are elected, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
indescribable
interesting.
feeling.
Yeah, Jimmy, have you seen the movie Conclave, Jim?
Yes, excellent. Very good.
Yeah,
You?
agreed. Okay, Jimmy, now that our movie review is complete, let's talk about what most affected us when we visited St. Peter's nearly 50 years ago and what our thoughts are looking back on that today. For
Okay.
me, hands down, Jimmy, it was the Pieta. I
Oh, well,
just,
that's not surprising. It really is a magnificent sculpture.
yeah, Jimmy, Magnificent doesn't seem to do it justice. I
No?
found it so powerful. The incredible marble. This is white marble. How Michelangelo was able to carve the flowing robes,
Yeah.
Jimmy. Now I know this is going to sound silly to some, but as I admired this sculpture, I felt, the Blessed Mother was talking to Jesus and saying, "You'll be okay, all will be okay." And
Uh,
but she was feeling so much pain and anguish I could see in her face.
yeah. Saying that all will be okay does sound a little funny since Jesus had just been
Yeah,
crucified, but
Jim, yeah, but
let's
all
move
right, but
on.
maybe it wasn't that, but it was her expression,
Right.
maternal. Maybe she was telling herself that despite the incredible loss, all would eventually be okay. I don't know. It
Okay.
just spoke to me in a way that no other piece of art ever has. In fact,
Mhm.
the entire visit, Doc, it was fascinating. I thought God was speaking to me in a way, telling me that everything would be okay. At that time, I felt I was in need of more, self-confidence, always self-doubting myself.
Mm.
And St. Peter gave me a little boost. What
Yeah,
about you, Doc? In the
good.
blog, you wrote that your first reaction was, I'll never forget, I'm not sure this is what Jesus had in mind, Doc.
Yeah, those were the words that, ran through my head once I got past the initial shock and wonder at how
Mhm.
large and magnificent the basilica is. But, Jesus didn't actually set out to found a religion, but purify the one he belonged to. So a better question would have been, would Jesus have approved? And, as you've pointed out, we were both born and raised Catholic. And being a Catholic was part of my identity, a deep part of my identity. But, that day, and I say this with deep respect to you and others who cherish their Christian and Catholic identity, I still don't think Jesus would have approved or approved today. You know,
Hmm.
just my
Jimmy,
opinion.
but don't you feel, Jim, that all that, that beautiful religious art is, to inspire, to kind of help us be at one with God and just raise us up, Jim?
Well, maybe it was meant to inspire the people, or maybe the clergy. I don't know.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
but it definitely made a big impact on me. Just not the inspiring type. That's all. But anyway, despite all that inspiring artwork, I felt that there was a huge gap between the hierarchy of the church, who had amassed all this wealth, and the regular people, the people who are supposed to be served by the church. It felt kind of I don't know. It's just a huge gulf. I felt for maybe the first time that the Catholic Church and I were not really aligned so closely anymore. Yeah.
Huh. Well, the church and God is always there, Jim, for you. And it is fascinating, Jim, going into this mammoth structure, how, two of us with very similar backgrounds, but, walk away with different impressions. Fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I want to make it clear that I believe the Catholic Church has done and continues to do incredibly good and important work in education, healthcare, providing for the less fortunate, you name it. It's just that for me, St. Peter's conveyed a different message from the one that Christ preached.
Well, I
That's
know we could have a very long and interesting discussion, Doc, about faith in the church, but it's time to move on. And after
okay.
Rome, you and I split up and traveled in different directions for a few days, Jim.
Yeah. And then we met up in Spain. So we'll talk about how that all went down in our next blog. So to everyone watching, thanks for joining us. And until next
And
time,
until next time, Jim, arrivederci,
arrivederci.
friends.
Oh, I stepped on your line there, Pink. Sorry about that.